So I just watched Doctor Strange and it was a unique film to say the least. I liked some of the fight scenes and disliked some parts of it. America Chavez, in my opinion, was underutilized. Her character arc at the end feels rushed, and I honestly didn't care if she lived or not, which from a writing standpoint failed as we want to keep her alive. Wanda's character was very well written. I didn't appreciate the happy ending that she received at the end of WandaVision, and it was wonderful to see her grief overcome her again in the form of her darker self, blinded by rage and desperation to see her child again. Doctor Strange also got some new character development, which was his younger sister who fell into a frozen lake in childhood. It is fair to assume that it is why Strange was desperate to be the best. He couldn't save her, so he must become good enough to save everyone. This comes to be a good trait and a bad trait. His desire for more knowledge and power aids him in the short run and harms him in the long run, as seen with multiple Doctor Stranges falling into temptations of the Darkhold across the multiverse. Oh, and they did the Illuminati dirty with that one. Now onto the essay. Most people around the world have experienced a degree of grief, no matter the form of it. However, the way we approach grief can be different. Kubler-Ross's theory of grief states there are usually 5 stages: anger, depression, denial, acceptance, and bargaining. Of course, not everyone progresses the same way. Some tend to stay in some stages longer, or even permanently. In Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, we get to see how Doctor Strange and Wanda confront grief. An extension from WandaVision's ending, Wanda is not quite over her grief yet. Their ending stated, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And Wanda is not done loving. In the end, she has accepted that Vision will be gone, and she is now in search for her children, praying through the multiverse with the help of the Darkhold. Meanwhile, the grief that Doctor Strange has is long buried and never confronted until he has a chat with his alternate self. He reveals that he feels responsible for his sister's death in childhood, where she fell through a lake and couldn't do anything about it. It is assumed that this was the motivating factor for him to become a doctor, to help those he can to compensate where he couldn't. However, the same desire also leads to a need for knowledge and power. He does not care what or how. He is willing to do anything to benefit his vision for the grand calculus of the multiverse. Therefore, when you are unable to let go of your grief, it will severely impact one's nature, as demonstrated by Wanda's thirst to see her children and Doctor Strange's need for control. Wanda has been consumed by her grief in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. She was willing to do everything just to spend time with her children again. She had lost her kindness in the bid for control, selling herself to the Darkhold and allowing her darkest self to light. This is emphasized by her lack of humanness and willingness to sacrifice an innocent child for her cause. She has rationalized her thoughts, deeming herself sane. She failed to see her wrongdoings because she no longer can see because of her grief. The Darkhold has a hold on her and is empowering her to the supposed truth. It had convinced her that her children are out there and waiting for her return. It was only when she achieved her desires that she sees the monster she had become. Instead of the expected warm welcome from her children were cold and scared. At that moment, she was finally able to see her reality, with no more illusions, just the painful truth. She is alone, and no matter what she does, it won't help her. She now understands there is nothing she could do that will bring them back, at least without doing more harm. She makes her last sacrifice by letting go of her children and closes all the Darkholds across the universe for good, ensuring no one is tempted by such power, which leads us to Strange. Doctor Strange's grief had long been buried. He has never talked about it to anyone else. Since that point, he has dedicated his life to learning everything in the medical field and the sorcerer field, ensuring such event would not take place again. His desperate need for knowledge and control makes him great at what he does, but as a consequence, people dislike or straight up fear him. He is a danger to others because of his reluctancy to let go. He doesn't trust others to operate during his time in the hospital, and he doesn't trust others in making decisions to save the world. He is then confronted by Christine, where she asked whether or not he is happy, and he clings on harder to his fallacy that he is happy. After all, he was one of the greatest surgeons, the most powerful sorcerer, and saved the world. What more could he ask for? Everything he had done up to that point was motivated by the same event he can't overcome. He couldn't hold on to his sister, who fell in the lake, so he held on ever since. He has a hold on everything, and he controls it all. Nothing bad can happen if I'm in control. The moment in the broken sanctum where he shares an intimate moment with himself, he finally realizes what is stopping him. All the strangers clinged on to the same thing, Christine, yet none of them have her, because all of them are the same. They keep having the need for control, and that never works. At the end, none of them are happy, because they can't let go of the one thing in their life. From then on, Strange learns to let others do their own thing, otherwise he'll be like every other Strange that failed. He lets Chavez believe in her own ability, and ultimately helping Wanda realize the same thing. You must let go. Overall, Strange and Wanda's grief has demonstrated how dangerous it could be if left unchecked. It will control you, and your senses will be swayed. Please recognize that it is prone to anyone. Get help if you need it, and help those who need support. In conclusion, to overcome grief, you must let go of those who are dearest to you, alike to Doctor Strange and Wanda.